Is diabetes the diabetes herd stampeding off a cliff? So Paul Bowman here, and today, we're going to talk about is the diabetes herd stampeding off a cliff? This is part 4 in a 5-part series about reversing diabetes. In the diabetes world, are you following the herd? Please seriously ask yourself this. Is this herd stampeding off a cliff? And are you going with them? About 50% of Americans are pre-diabetic or diabetic, and those numbers are getting much worse. And we're so inundated with information and stuff like this. Really, let that sink in. Half of Americans are pre-diabetic and diabetic or diabetic, and that number is skyrocketing. Not good. Our standard treatment is a failure. Most diagnosed with type 2 diabetes go on metformin and no carb, low carb. From there, most end up on insulin. The continuation of this treatment tends to be more metformin, more insulin, more drugs, more complications, declining quality of life, and an early grave. If that seems grim, that is the blunt reality. And it doesn't have to be that way. But half of America is going there and more. Nowhere in the American Diabetes Association guidelines does it talk about reversing diabetes. But that is very doable and should be everyone's goal. The standard treatment and model of control your diabetes is not in your best interest. It is in the best interest of the pharmaceutical industry. I'm going to use a few more metaphors and analogies to hammer this point home. Remember the kid's argument of, but everybody else is. In this scenario, we all know just because everyone else is doing it doesn't make it a good idea. Yet, most have fallen into this trap in the diabetes world. To paraphrase Stephen Covey from the 7 Habits of Highly Successful People, imagine you've never been to Chicago or New York City, and you were trying to get around New York City with a map of Chicago, but you believed it was a map of New York City. You or anyone else could say, come on, try harder, come on, try harder. And you will still be going nowhere fast. It's the same with diabetes when you have the wrong map, the wrong model. Most, with this current model, the current common model, most will obviously fail. Some will fall into a trap of partial or temporary success and sadly continue down this wrong path. But in the long run, that's not a good thing. The late, great Dan Kennedy put it something like this. Statistically in life, if you did nothing more than follow the herd, you would do pretty well. Let that sink in if you don't already follow that model. In wrapping up today's quick lesson, let's continue this conversation. What questions or concerns do you have? Put them in the comments. Or just type overwhelmed if that's how you feel. And that's easy enough. There's a lot of confusing, conflicting stuff out there. So it's easy enough to get overwhelmed, and overwhelmed people don't do anything. And that's not a good idea either. So let's continue that conversation. So questions, comments, or just overwhelmed, let me know. Let's continue. And definitely, regardless of how you feel about any of that, come back tomorrow, 12:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, when we're going to talk about what actually works to reverse diabetes. You're not going to want to miss that. See you tomorrow. Talk to you soon.